an eye for an eye makes the whole world blind. Honestly, I can't think of a better episode of any Nickelodeon cartoon to portray that sentiment than the Hey Arnold episode, Arnold Betrays Iggy. This episode is one that's just as iconic as it is emotionally jarring. Like, you can't tell me that you didn't watch this as a kid, sitting on the edge of your seat and nearly squirming from the secondhand anxiety about the situation that Arnold found himself in. It's an episode that, in a very realistic way, tells a story that boils down to the core point of most people's nightmares. Being stuck in a situation that isn't even your fault or choice and having absolutely no logical way out. The production team behind this episode absolutely knocked it out of the park in not only telling this story, but telling it in a way that makes it feel like it's rooted in real life, even though the situation is admittedly rather far-fetched. They brought the emotional tension in a way that escalates this from a simple mistake to a full-blown execution of Arnold's social life in front of everyone, personally at the hands of Iggy. Of course, Arnold did make a mistake. He did leave Iggy feeling like he was straight up betrayed. The way he saw it, Arnold had already executed his social life, so he was just returning the favor. Ultimately, when we stop to examine Iggy's side of things, there's genuinely a lot more nuance to be considered here. As the dominoes fall, we're left asking an inevitable question. Did Arnold actually deserve this punishment? And that's why today, on our nostalgic walk down memory lane, we're going to dive back into Hey Arnold to analyze one of the most memorable episodes of all time. However, we're not just diving into this one to take in how shocking or messed up that it was. We're genuinely going to be looking at both sides, considering everything that happened, what influenced these situations, and how they would affect both of these kids socially and psychologically. As this episode starts out, we see Arnold walking down the sidewalk with everybody's favorite instigators, Sid and Stinky. They're going on about how Arnold is so lucky because he was chosen to bring Iggy his homework as he stayed home sick from school today. The two glaze Iggy up, saying that he's the coolest kid in the world, and that he probably isn't even sick, feeling jealous that Arnold gets the opportunity to go to his house. They reminisce about the time that Iggy drew a funny chalk drawing of Principal Warts on the playground and got detention for a week, doubling down on how much of a cool, edgy rebel that Iggy is. Next thing you know, though, we cut to a fancy high-rise apartment building downtown, where inside we see none other than Arnold knocking on Iggy's door. His mom answers, and she lets Arnold in, saying that Iggy is inside on the sofa.
Arnold? Iggy? Arnold? What are you wearing? Nothing. Forget it. Are those bunny pajamas? No, of course not. I'm 9 years old, for Christ's sakes. Why would I be wearing bunny pajamas?
Iggy's mom walks up, turning on the light and taking Iggy's blanket, saying that she's gotta wash it, leaving his outfit exposed. Arnold begins to laugh at him, taken back by the sight of the coolest kid in school donning a fuzzy pair of bunny pajamas, complete with big floppy ears and squeakers in the feet so they make a little noise every time he steps. Iggy gets up and immediately starts groveling to him, saying that he has to promise not to tell anyone because he'll lose all the respect that he worked so hard for. He even goes as far as making Arnold promise word for word that he won't tell anybody about what he saw here today.
That I won't tell anyone that you sleep in bunny pajamas. It's not funny, Arnold. I know. I promise.
The next day, we see Arnold on the bus with Sid and Stinky as they head to school. Stinky is telling them the story of why he loves lemon pudding so much, which apparently he tells them almost daily. And Sid responds by immediately beelining to the subject of Iggy and how he was when Arnold stopped by yesterday. curious about if Iggy was faking sick or not. At that, Arnold says that he did actually seem pretty sick as he begins chuckling to himself a little bit, remembering what he saw Iggy wearing the day before. When Sid and Stinky ask about what's so funny, Arnold just kind of brushes it off. They try to pry more, but all he's willing to say is that it was something that happened while he was there, and that he isn't willing to talk about it further. Naturally though, this just sparks their curiosity even more as they continue to pry, wondering what exactly happened. They keep asking, pushing, and pressuring Arnold to elaborate.
Was it something he did?
Well, it was just something he was wearing, but that's all I can say.
Was it a dress?
No, of course not.
Well, come on. How bad could it be? I mean, it wasn't like he was wearing bunny pajamas or something.
When Arnold doesn't respond to them saying that, they immediately know that's exactly what happened. Arnold tries his best to backpedal, saying that he didn't say that, but unfortunately they aren't buying it for even a second. They can already tell by the way that he's trying to cover it up in retrospect that they hit the nail right on the head.
I didn't say he wears bunny pajamas.
But that's it, isn't it, Arnold? I can tell by the way your face is turning all red.
Look, I promised Iggy I wouldn't tell, so you guys have to promise too.
Sure, Arnold. We promise.
We won't tell a soul.
Iggy wears bunny pajamas.
Sid and Stinky play up the news, laughing and calling Iggy a baby as all of the other kids join in on the mockery. Just then, though, Iggy arrives at school and immediately becomes the target of all the harassment, with every single kid there laughing at him.
Do you wear widow diapers too?
What are you talking about? Don't try to deny it.
Everybody knows about your feet pajamas. Yeah, Arnold told us all about it.
Arnold!
Iggy approaches Arnold super heated, accusing him of spreading his secret. However, Arnold defends himself, saying that it was an accident, and blaming it on them guessing that he was wearing bunny pajamas on their own. Iggy storms off while everybody continues to mock him, leaving Arnold feeling like an absolute jerk. In true Arnold fashion, he tries to apologize, but Iggy full-blown gives him the cold shoulder, pretending that Arnold doesn't even exist. Realizing that he really did do a lot more damage than he thought, Arnold ends up thinking about it alone in his room late at night. His grandpa comes in to talk to him, asking what's on his mind, and he explains the entire situation. He tells his grandpa about the bunny pajamas, about how Sid and Stinky found out, and how the entire school knows now.
That's a riot.
It's not funny, Grandpa.
Of course not.
I just wish I knew how to make him forgive me.
But I say you should just go to the boy and apologize and explain to him in a calm, rational way how it happened, and that you didn't mean to hurt him.
Armed with that advice, Arnold heads to Iggy's apartment the next day, hoping to patch things up. He knocks on the door, and Iggy answers as cold as ice. Arnold apologizes to him genuinely, saying that he really didn't mean to break his trust and that he realizes how much damage that he did, even going as far as gifting Iggy a box of his absolute favorite chocolates. No matter how hard that he tries though, Iggy just isn't ready to forgive him.
Look, you can't stay mad at me forever. Iggy, come on. I bet everybody's already forgotten about it.
Oh, look, boys and girls. It's the bunny pajama boy.
All right, I'm making the bunny boy.
I used to think he was cool.
As that happens, Sid and Stinky watch from a nearby window, commenting on how hard Iggy is taking the destruction of his social life. They begin to question how long he could realistically stay mad, and just like that, we see the seasons beginning to change. Autumn comes and goes, as does winter, and come spring, Iggy is still playing alone at recess and completely ignoring Arnold, who is still trying to make things right. He proposes that he do Iggy's chores for an entire week to make it up to him, and with little more than one sentence, Iggy takes him up on the offer. We get a montage of the entire week passing by with Arnold doing every last chore for Iggy while he sits around and takes it easy. By the end of the week, Arnold finishes up and Iggy thanks him, sending him on his way.
Wait a minute. I just want to make sure everything's okay. You forgive me now, right?
Are you kidding? Of course not. After what you did to me, how could doing a few chores possibly make me forgive you?
Iggy, I thought we had a deal.
I never said I'd let you off the hook.
At that, Arnold is finally fed up. He pleads with Iggy, asking him what he has to do to get him to finally understand that he really is sorry. As Iggy ponders it though, an evil smile spreads across his face. He leads Arnold to his closet where he opens it up, showing him the bunny costume and telling him that this is the only way that he could possibly understand just how he felt on the day that Arnold exposed his secret to everyone. And it's the only way that he'll gain forgiveness. Next thing you know, we cut to the street outside of Arnold's house, lined with people surrounding a gated-off red carpet. At the end of that carpet sits none other than Iggy, in a lifeguard's chair as if he were a king on his throne. Arnold looks down from his bedroom window, feeling like absolute garbage over the fact that he's reduced himself to this in the name of forgiveness.
Arnold, I want you to know that when you go down there and walk that long, lonely, embarrassing walk, it's going to be all I can bear to watch. And take pictures for the album.
Across the street, while everyone anxiously awaits Arnold's downfall, Sid and Stinky stand by Iggy's "Grovel Here" sign at the front of his throne. As they count down the seconds until Arnold gets humiliated, they begin connecting the dots on how this is actually pretty messed up when you think about it.
I mean, Arnold really didn't spill the beans.
Yeah, come to think of it, it was you and me who kind of pulled the truth out of him.
Yeah, it wasn't Arnold's fault.
It sure is a terrible state of affairs. And it's gonna be much more humiliating on account of we'll have pictures.
At that exact moment, Arnold merely cracks the door ever so slightly, and the entire crowd bursts into abrupt laughter before even seeing him. Iggy, realizing now that it wasn't Arnold's fault, tries to stop him by shouting to him, but he's drowned out by the noise of the audience losing it. Arnold walks back into his house with his head held in shame as Iggy stands there completely broken at the realization of what he's just done. From there, we cut forward a few hours to later that evening where Iggy sits on Arnold's stoop waiting for him to come out and talk to him. He hangs his head in shame, clearly feeling guilty about what he just made Arnold do. Moments later, Arnold finally opens the door, less than enthused to see Iggy sitting there.
Arnold, I am so sorry. I tried to call it off. I couldn't get through. I'm sorry. Come on, Arnold. What do I have to do to make it up to you? How about I do your chores for a week? Aw, come on. You know, eventually, you're going to have to forgive me, Arnold. Arnold?
Now, before we truly get to the answer of whether or not Arnold deserved the punishment that he faced, it's important to consider a few factors here, some of which go easily overlooked. Of course, odds are you're already set in your opinion on this one, but hear me out because no matter what side that you're on, there are some valid points to be made. First things first, we need to consider the fact that Arnold didn't really have much of a choice to a degree here in a lot of ways. Like, his teacher tasked him with delivering homework to Iggy. He had to go to Iggy's house. Oddly enough, the teacher didn't even call Iggy's mom to let her know that a student would be stopping by or anything like that. Furthermore, Iggy's mother didn't really stop to think that he probably shouldn't be around one of his classmates that he's not even really friends with if he really is sick in his pajamas on the couch. I mean, just for the simple fact of not wanting to get another person sick, not even considering that maybe her son would want some privacy right now. On that note, I was surprised to see that Arnold didn't just give the homework to Iggy's mom and ask her to pass it on to him. I guess all that to say that in every sense, Arnold was kind of dropped into the situation and more or less doomed by the adults around him to a degree. What happened after he saw what he saw was definitely his responsibility, but him being put in this situation in the first place is a direct result of the adults here. They laid the foundation that put Iggy in a situation where his privacy would be invaded and left Arnold struggling to keep back what he saw because it was so funny to him. Another really interesting thing to ponder here is that when it came to the secret itself actually coming out, Arnold kind of didn't have much of a choice in that moment either. Arnold has such a strong moral compass that it completely overrides any and all ability to lie to Sid and Stinky in that moment where they accurately guessed the secret. Ironically enough, it would be that set of morals that led to his own downfall. His inability to fib to cover for Iggy would be what got him so deep into this predicament. The thing is, though, there is one thing that he had a choice over that could have completely changed things here. If he simply just didn't laugh about it on the bus, none of this would have happened. If he could have just pulled himself together and not chuckled so openly about it, then Sid and Stinky would have just been none the wiser. They wouldn't have been prying or have even known that there was a secret to figure out to begin with. Even then, he didn't have to answer to Sid and Stinky. He could have just not said anything. He didn't need to tell them that something happened while he was there, and of course he absolutely didn't need to follow that up with telling them that he was laughing because of something that Iggy was wearing. I mean, on one hand, I definitely recognize the pressure that Arnold felt as Stinky and Sid kept prying, but on the other hand, Arnold leaving this whole trail of breadcrumbs the way that he did, then acting all surprised Pikachu face when they connected the dots is pretty ridiculous. Ultimately, this one stresses the value in sometimes just keeping your mouth shut. Like, not everybody needs to know everything. And on that same note, people who aren't entitled to information definitely aren't entitled to hints about that information, no matter how badly they want them. Admittedly, the biggest force at play here is peer pressure. But the thing is, I don't think that any of us are surprised that Sid and Stinky acted the way that they did. Arnold, though, we're all surprised that he caved into their peer pressure the way that he did. Sure, it was in a minimal way and he just dropped some clues, but with that in mind, if Arnold wasn't okay with risking them finding out, there's absolutely no reason for him to be dropping those hints as to what he was laughing at. Again, we already know that Arnold has a strong sense of morals. However, it's rather questionable that they stop him from lying to Sid and Stinky, but they don't stop him from giving them hints to Iggy's secret. Furthermore, the fact that Arnold used the "it was an accident" argument as his defense when confronted by Iggy really does kind of drive me nuts. I mean, sure, I believe that Arnold didn't do it to hurt Iggy or to spite him, or even on purpose. But that doesn't change the fact that A, he still did it, and B, Sid and Stinky didn't purely guess the secret on their own. They had to be told that there was a secret to begin with, as well as the fact that the secret had to do with what Iggy was wearing, and that it was funny enough to make Arnold audibly laugh in hindsight the next day. Arnold actively left the breadcrumbs for Sid and Stinky after he laughed about it, whether that was accidental or not. It's a real matter of intent versus outcome. Sure, Arnold absolutely didn't intend for things to go the way that they did, but still, here we are nevertheless, and that doesn't make Iggy feel any less wronged. In that regard, this episode is a massive statement to the fact that when you wrong someone, you aren't really entitled to forgiveness. I mean, you can and probably should apologize and try to make amends as much as you want, but that person isn't obligated to forgive you, especially if they aren't ready to. If someone isn't ready for forgiveness, then they aren't ready, and they might not ever be. That's up to them, not the person who wronged them. For that person, it's not their place to question whether or not they deserve forgiveness, regardless of the amount of gestures that they make in the pursuit of forgiveness. Sometimes it's best to just step back and let things simmer down over time. Rushing to a resolution with someone who is still rightfully elevated emotionally is how you end up in a situation where you sign up for a punishment that outweighs the crime, like Arnold did. One thing that definitely piggybacks off of the general sentiment there is the moment where Iggy and Arnold are standing at the water fountain, and Arnold says that everyone's probably already forgotten about what happened, just for their classmates to walk by seconds later, still humiliating Iggy, proving Arnold completely wrong about that. The big point, though, is that even if they did all forget, that doesn't mean that Arnold should be automatically waived of any responsibility that he had in the situation. Even if they had forgotten about it, he still broke Iggy's trust in a very hurtful way, even if it was on accident. It honestly really comes across as just dismissive and more focused on gaining forgiveness for the sake of his own conscience, rather than actually making Iggy feel better about what happened. The true irony, though, comes in the way that Iggy replicated that same exact behavior in the very end. The fact that he used such a dismissive tone while telling Arnold that he tried to call it off, as if that's supposed to resolve anything, really said a lot. It acts as kind of a full circle moment, with Iggy not realizing that an excuse doesn't resolve what already happened, just like Arnold failed to realize. He even used the same exact "you're gonna have to forgive me eventually" line, which in and of itself shows that Iggy didn't really learn anything from this. I mean, you'd think that as someone who went through something very mildly similar to what he did to Arnold, that he would understand that this isn't gonna work. However, he doesn't consider that when Arnold was feeding him those same exact lines, it didn't make him feel better at all. Of course, digging deeper into Iggy's side of things, though, this episode is a huge example of how living by the law of an eye for an eye and relying heavily on reactionary justice can quickly escalate into an eye for a life, especially when the person in charge of that call is the person who was wronged. This is especially true when we consider cases like this one, where the person solely accused isn't the only one who should be shouldering the entire blame. Like, sure, Arnold accidentally laid the foundation for the secret to come out, leading to everyone in class hearing about what he saw. But with that being said, Sid and Stinky full-blown even admitted in the end that it wasn't even Arnold's fault in their opinion. However, I really do want to emphasize again that his actions led to everyone hearing about what Arnold saw. And that was the worst of it for Iggy. They simply heard that it happened, and they likely imagined it mentally. For Arnold, on the other hand, though, because the judge, jury, and executioner was Iggy, he was forced into a situation where everyone, even absolute strangers, saw him in that outfit. Even more foul than that would be the fact that for Iggy, he said this was the only way that Arnold would understand how he felt. But nobody even saw Iggy in that costume except for Arnold. Of course, it's totally justifiable for Iggy to have some elevated feelings and have a level of embarrassment that feels like everyone saw him in it. But he wasn't full-blown paraded around the neighborhood, broadcasted on the news, and made to grovel at someone's feet like Arnold was. In that regard, this episode is a true testament to the fact that living by the rule of an eye for an eye, without ever considering any exceptions, nuance, or even an impartial third party, ultimately is destined to lead to messed up situations like this. Situations where someone gets absolutely obliterated as a form of justice for someone who had something bad happen to them, but not nearly as bad in comparison to the punishment being dished out. With that being said though, this episode is a great representation of exactly why a lot of us favor the idea of living in a society that believes in a due legal process. When someone is accused of a crime on American soil, they get put through the court system for a reason. Some cases have an impartial jury for a reason. Like, you can't just accuse someone of purposefully wronging you, then dish out their sentence on your own. Again, it needs to be said that Iggy has absolutely every right to not forgive Arnold. He can even hold a grudge for as long as he wants. But him making an entire example out of Arnold was way too far past the line of what's okay. In the long run, it just made Iggy look like a bigger jerk on his high horse up there. Expanding more on Iggy though, I think one big thing that frustrates me about him and this entire situation is that he thinks that he's better than everyone. He doesn't even have to say it because everybody else says it for him. He thinks that he's above embarrassment or criticism, and so does everybody else. This was established literally within the first 2 sentences in this episode, as Sid and Stinky are telling Arnold about how lucky he is to be chosen to bring Iggy his homework while he's homesick. I'm not sure which frustrates me more. The way that Iggy looks at himself, the way he's trained all of these kids to worship the ground that he walks on, or the fact that these kids idolize another kid who has a cheesy, overgrown Shakespeare bowl cut, wears sunglasses indoors, and practically dresses identical to Arnold, just with different colors. Looks beside the point though. The biggest frustrating factor here is his overinflated sense of justice. Kids often operate on a very strict justice equals fairness criteria. However, that goes completely out of the window as far as Iggy is concerned. His reaction and the punishment that he dished out was incredibly exaggerated, and I feel like that ties back into him thinking that he's better than everybody else. In his eyes, anyone who messes with him specifically deserves a grand punishment simply just because he's Iggy. At face value, Arnold is a very conscientious and ethical kid who, in a sense, was caught in a very difficult to navigate structural trap. Meanwhile, Iggy is a very big-headed kid with an overinflated sense of superiority who clearly believes in severe reactionary justice. However, the true culprit here, if we are really being honest, or should I say culprits, would be Sid and Stinky. Where Arnold and Iggy were caught in a really volatile situation, the entire thing was instigated by Sid and Stinky through and through. Like, we can sit here and pick apart Arnold laughing on the bus and leaving breadcrumbs all day long. But at the core of the matter, when Sid and Stinky found out, they were the ones who made the active decision to spread the news like a wildfire and tell every single person that they could. You know good and well that them choosing to keep that to themselves wasn't even an option, and on that note, Arnold should have known as well, but again, is it Arnold's fault for seeing what he saw and laughing about it in front of them? Or is it their fault for prying, guessing, spreading the gossip, and not piping up when Arnold took the entire brunt of Iggy's wrath? Regardless of the answer to that question, I feel another dark side of Hey Arnold brewing. In the long run, Sid and Stinky were the catalysts for the conflict here, but it's really frustrating how they largely got overlooked in this episode. Instead, they got the luxury of laying low. This one serves to have us as viewers sympathize with Arnold, all the while reflecting on responsibility, fairness, and the social pressure that can lead to a simple accident feeling like an intentional, treacherous betrayal. With that in mind, that's another reason why this show is so great. It absolutely specializes in navigating ethical and moral gray areas, and especially episodes like this one allow us to explore how morality is handled for younger audiences. When it comes to Arnold and the big burning question though, did he deserve it? It can be argued that he deserved something, but this absolutely wasn't it. I mean, Arnold genuinely apologized. He made gestures, such as doing all of Iggy's chores for an entire week, just for Iggy to throw those things back in his face. Again, Iggy's hurt feelings are justified, given the circumstances, even though he's kind of an arrogant loser, but ultimately, did Arnold deserve to be paraded through the streets in humiliated Game of Thrones style? Definitely not. But I do have to take a moment to ask, what do you guys think? If you were Iggy, what kind of punishment would you have wanted for Arnold? Let me know in the comments down below. I always love seeing your guys' feedback. Of course, I have to give a quick shout out to my friends in the true 90s kids tier. You're all pivotal to my career as a content creator, and it means so much to me that you all show so much support to my endeavors. Thanks for everything, my friends. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to drop a like and give a little praise to the algorithm in hopes that it pushes this one to everyone else. As always, thank you all so much for watching, and I can't wait to see you guys in the next one. Peace.